So we start off the scene with Daki pressing two little girls for money, and Zenitsu happens to hear what's going on. And being the goat that he is, he tells her to not take her anger out on them because they're just kids. So he grabbed her wrist, and that made her very angry, so she backhanded him and he got knocked out in the process and went flying. Then we fast forward to the next day, and Tanjiro and Inosuke are chatting on a rooftop talking about how Inosuke has a demon in his house. Then out of nowhere, Tengen pulls up and tells him Zenitsu isn't responding to check-ins and they should go back home because if they would stay and fight, they would mostly just get in the way and hold him back. So later that night, Tanjiro was chatting it up with the Huz and later leaves to go find Zenitsu, and that same girl he was talking to gets pulled up on by Daki and she kidnaps her. Not long after, Tanjiro's spidey senses start going off and he begins to track down Daki with his nose. Ends up finding Daki, almost consuming the baddie Tanjiro was talking to, and gets speed blitzed out the window by Daki with her clothing lines? Not sure what it is, but I'ma just call it clothing lines. Then they get to boxing in the air and Tanjiro was able to barely hold his own and his sword gets chipped in the process. He later tries his new sun breathing technique on Daki but ends up missing because he's too slow. We then cut to Tengen saving one of his wives from Daki's clothing lines, holding her hostage. And then he begins searching for the demon but ends up hearing fighting underground and starts digging with his sound breathing. Not too long before this, Inosuke slithering in one of the holes Daki made and reaches where Daki keeps her victims and later eats them. The clothing line thingy then begins to confront him for being there and they get to boxing and Inosuke manages to save a few people in the process, like Tengen's wives, Zenitsu, and a few filler civilians. Then the goat, the man, the myth, the legend, Tengen pulls up and straight speed blitzes the clothing lines and saves everyone that was trapped in it. We later then cut back to Tanjiro and Daki fighting in the middle of the street. And I'm confused on how no one isn't hearing this take place. Like, they gotta be in an abandoned place or something. Anyways, they're boxing and Daki clothing lines that were cut come back to her so she can reclaim them and get stronger and start transforming and fangirling over how Tengen pulled up because he's a Hashira and she can make Michael Jackson happy if she wins. A civilian finally hears the commotion and goes outside to see what's going on, and Tanjiro tells him to get back inside because it's dangerous. Daki sees this opportunity and launches an AoE attack, killing civilians and injuring Tanjiro in the process. Tanjiro then loses it and straight up teleports behind her and she dodges the attack, but Tanjiro manages to cut off one of her foot, striking the fear of Yurichi in her like she was there when him and Michael Jackson fought. We then cut to Tengen and the others talking about where the main demon is, and they later start booking it to Tanjiro's location, realizing he could be in danger as he's the only one not there. We then see Tanjiro and Daki straight going at it, but Tanjiro ain't playing this time and is trying to end the fight instantly, but he can't manage to get a killing blow on Daki. Then he proceeds to pull one of the biggest fumbles and starts choking because he used too much sun breathing, and it makes it hard to breathe for him. Daki then stands over him calling him trash and is about to kill him, but then my girl Nezuko pulls up on Demon Time and straight football kicks her dome and almost kills her. Daki ends up regenning and her and Nezuko get the boxing, and I'm not gonna lie, Nezuko was getting cooked in the beginning, but she couldn't go out like that. So she powered up and started dodging Daki, had her on the ground looking confused. She then kicks her into someone's home where civilians are, and one of them ends up getting cut and Nezuko smells it and almost goes crazy. But Tanjiro pulls up, stops her, but Daki sees this and tries to kill them both. Tengen pulls up and cuts her clothing lines and is straight aura farming after saving Tanjiro and Nezuko, and begins talking about how he's never seen her and that she's interesting. Then Daki tries to interrupt them, but Tengen tells her to shut up because he doesn't care about her and already managed to behead her like she was easy kills in Call of Duty. Tanjiro manages to calm Nezuko and Daki begins crying because she got beheaded and calls for her brother Gyutaro. And Tengen ain't waste no time and tries to kill Gyutaro, but he easily dodges and starts to heal Daki. Tengen saw this and wasn't having it, so he rushed at Gyutaro and he almost gets speed blitzed by him, but he manages to dodge in time time getting cut in the process. The rest of the gang arrive on the scene, and Tanjiro tells them to help Tengen because he's about to get jumped. Tengen and Gyutaro start going at it, and then Tengen throws some bombs to try and catch Daki and Gyutaro off guard, but Daki blocks it with her clothing lines and turns into a ball. Gyutaro then asks him why he isn't dead yet because he poisoned him when he cut him earlier, but Tengen tells him he's a goat so he wouldn't die that easily. He then rushes at them and kicks Daki while throwing bombs at the both of them, and Gyutaro manages to dodge, but Daki wasn't so lucky and got beheaded again. And the rest of the gang pull up now, making it a 2-on-1 with Zenitsu and Inosuke fighting Daki, and Tengen and Tanjiro fighting Gyutaro. Zenitsu takes Daki outside and she starts powering up again as she starts going crazy and launching AoE attacks at Zenitsu and Inosuke and also Tanjiro and Tengen. Tanjiro just barely manages to block the attack, but Tengen and Gyutaro are still going at it while managing to dodge. Then one of Tengen's wives pulls up and tries to do a sneak attack from the roof, but it fails as Gyutaro manages to block all but one kunai. Then Tengen sees this as an opportunity and rushes at Gyutaro and manages to cut off both his legs, and him and Tanjiro go in for the killing blow, but it fails as Gyutaro is able to regen already and launch a wide AoE attack, but Tengen blocks it using his sound breathing. They end up managing to get Gyutaro in a pinned position.
Pause!
And yeah, I'ma just head out because what type of move is that? We later then cut to the Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu fighting Daki and hit a Power Ranger move to behead Daki, and Inosuke grabs her head and tries to run off with it but gets backstabbed by Gyutaro. Tanjiro then spots Tengen laid out on the ground with one hand cut off, and the goat Zenitsu tries to push Tanjiro out the way from Daki's huge clothing line AoE attack but fails. The town's in flames and Tanjiro managed to survive with Nezuko, but Gyutaro pulls up on him, telling him how his whole team is cooked and how it's about to be a bunch of demon slayers smoke in the air. He then takes his hand and starts breaking his fingers and torturing him, and Tanjiro grabs Nezuko and starts booking it. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw this for the first time, I thought he was cooked, and I thought there wasn't gonna be any more demon slayer. But Tanjiro manages to headbutt him and stab him with the kunai, catching him off guard and goes in for the kill, but Daki tries to intervene, but then gets blocked by the goat Zenitsu, and he's in the process of beheading her. Meanwhile, Tanjiro failed and is getting pressed by Gyutaro and was about to get cooked, but at the last second Tengen came in, blocked the attack, and they both just got to boxing, with Tanjiro being the sub-in for Tengen. Tanjiro manages to behead Gyutaro while Zenitsu and Inosuke manage to behead Daki. In the process of beheading Gyutaro, Tanjiro got hit by one of the attacks and starts getting cooked by the poison, and Tengen is trying to warn him, but they all get hit by a huge AoE attack by Gyutaro, and Nezuko comes in clutching up the dub for the team, blocking the attacks and also healing the poison from everyone with her flames. Shout out Nezuko, man. She was a big MVP in this fight. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really caught up on Demon Slayer, but this arc was my favorite arc so far, from the fights, the characters, the funny moments, and the cliffhangers it had, and I really enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys would want more content like this in the comments below, and if you liked the video, drop a like and subscribe, as it would really help me out, and it's also free. Peace.
This is great banter. It really is.